All right, guys, so we're getting ready to start Unit 4, which has to do with quadratic equations. And one of the skills that's going to be very necessary for us to be able to do when we're solving quadratic equations is being able to factor. So this lesson is just a brief review of a big topic from Algebra 1, which was factoring. And if we look at this first example, and this is your assignment for today, our goal is to break this quadratic factor into two binomial factors. All right, so if remember, this is kind of the reverse of doing FOIL. So I want to find a number that when I multiply the first pieces of these two binomials together, that I get b squared, and that would be b times b. Then I look at the last number and I want to find two numbers that multiply to be 7 and add to be 8. So we're going to multiply to be the last number and add to be the middle number. All right, so only numbers that multiply to be 7 are 1 and 7. And because 7 is positive, those signs have to be the same. So they're going to either be positive, positive, or negative, negative. And that's determined by the sign of the middle number. So the numbers that multiply to be 7 and add to be positive 8 are just 7 and 1. And it doesn't matter which order you put them in, just as long as the sign in front of the number is correct. All right, so here is one where we are multiplying, and I'm looking at number 5. Number 5, we're multiplying numbers to be equal to 9, and we're going to add them to be negative 10. All right, so multiply to be the end number, add to be the middle number. And again, because 9 is positive, both of our signs are going to be the same. But because the middle number is negative, both of the numbers will be negative. All right, in the first example, they were both positive because the middle number was positive. When I have a positive at the end, my signs are the same. And they're the same sign as the middle number. So they're going to be negative and negative. So when I break this down, I'm going to have two binomials. The first part is going to be an n, because n times n is n squared. And the numbers that multiply to be 9 are 9 and 1 or 3 and 3. Those numbers have to add to be the middle term. So we're going to use minus 9 and minus 1. They multiply to be positive 9, but they add to be negative 10. Now when our signs, or when the sign in front of the last number is different, okay, when you multiply the two factors, your signs are going to be different. So if I have a negative here, my signs will be different. So that means I have to have a positive and a negative. But they're going to add up to be the middle term. And when my signs are different, if I'm adding a positive to a negative, I actually subtract the numbers to get the middle number. So here, I'm going to start with an m, and the numbers that multiply to be 90 and subtract to be 1 are 10 and 9. All right, so 10 times 9 is 90, and if I subtract them, they get to be 1. Now the key to determine which one is positive and which one is negative has to do with this middle sign. If the middle sign is positive, that means the bigger number has to be positive. So one's positive, one's negative. The bigger number is 10, and the smaller number is 9. So they subtract to be 1. But if I were to add positive 10 to negative 9, I get positive 1. And that's what I should have here. All right, so let's look at number 9. On number 9, whoops, that's not the one I want. Let's do number 7. Here, my signs are different. Or my sign is negative, so I'm going to have different signs. So I have a minus and a plus. So in my pockets, I'm going to have an M and an M and a minus and a plus. Numbers that multiply to be 24 and subtract to be 2. Okay, so if I don't think about it right away, I can list factors of 24, like 1 and 24. But when I subtract them, I don't get 2. 2 and 12, when I subtract, I get 10. 3 and 8, I subtract, I get 5. 4 and 6, and this is where I subtract and get 2. And again, because this middle term is positive, the bigger number has to take on that sign. So I'm going to have a positive 6 and a negative 4. All right, so there's one other thing that I want to look at, and this is on the back side. So let's look at number 15, sorry. Let's look at 15. For number 15, notice I don't have just a 1 in front of my b squared, or in front of my squared term. So in this case, the first thing I want to do is see, can I factor out that number, or is this number a factor of all 3 parts? If it is, you're going to take it out, and then you're going to multiply by what you would have, by the trinomial you would have to get this top term. So 2 times n squared is 2n squared. 2 times 3n is 6n. And 2 times negative 54 would be negative 108. And I still want to break this down, and I want to multiply the 2 binomials together to get what's in the pockets here. So I still have a factor of a 2. I'm going to multiply n times n to get n squared. And now the numbers I multiply to be 54 and subtract to be 3. So just numbers I think of that go into 54, like 6 times 9. And that actually works. 6 times 9 is 54. I'm going to subtract and get 3. Because there's a negative here, I have a positive and a negative. And the bigger number is going to take on this sign. So the bigger number is 9, and the smaller number is 6. All right, so there's a few more of those on this page, like number 21. Again, you're just pulling out the 2, and you have p squared plus p minus 2. And if you do the distributive property, 2 times p squared is 2p squared, and 2 times p is 2p, and 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Okay, so then we're going to try and break this trinomial down to two parts. All right, and that's going to be it. Your job for today is to finish this worksheet, and if you do finish, you are welcome to work on Delta Math. Have a good day.